Well, the first week of the playoffs has wrapped up, and it was certainly a very interesting week of football. I mean, Saturday had some great games, Sunday a little bit less, and then Monday was just... what was that game? It honestly went downhill from Saturday with two great games, and then the rest were like, meh. But I'm going to grade how every wildcard team did this weekend. Now, I'm going to be a little more strict with the grades. I'm not going to determine my grades based off the result of the matchup that much, because you lose, you go home, you win, you move on. So that's kind of pointless to take into account in the grades. Otherwise, I'd rate every team an F and every team an S. That would not be any fun. So we may as well start ranking. As you can see in my tier list, I have two teams on bye, the Seahawks and Broncos, and the rest are eliminated. We'll be adding more teams to that next week. But we may as well start with our first matchup, with the Rams and Panthers. This was a surprisingly interesting game here. The Rams did not play to their best, and Matthew Stafford jammed his finger, which clearly affected his throws. And it's how Carolina managed to get even close into the game. There was multiple chances for Carolina to actually steal one away, but it took a Los Angeles game-winning drive to win the game against the Panthers, who are 8-9. Yeah, that's a little bit of a tough one. Matthew Stafford still had a pretty good game. I mean, he was playing fantastic in the first half when he was uninjured. Then he jammed his finger and, well, things got a little bit close there. And the Rams special teams unit might cost this team a Super Bowl. This team is really good, but this special teams unit has screwed up multiple times this season, lost them games, and they're lucky the unit didn't cause them to lose this game as well. I would be very concerned if I was a Rams fan. They are not playing their best football right now, and I do have my concerns going into the divisional round. Maybe they can get back on track and get their way to the Super Bowl. That's also possible, but with how they played against a lesser opponent, I'm putting them in C tier. Yes, they won the game. That's what you want to do, but I'm not taking that into account here. I'm looking at specifically team performance, and they played well below their standard. Meanwhile, the Panthers, despite losing, I'm actually going to put them B tier. They put up a really good fight in a loss. It's probably the only time where I put a loser over a winner, but again, when I'm not taking into account the actual game result, I'm looking at team performance based on their talent level. This is how I'd rate them. Now, I wouldn't say Carolina played a perfect game, but they definitely had fewer mistakes than the Rams. And the Rams really should have blown out the Panthers here. But Rams get to move on to next week. We'll see what they do next week. Next up, we have the Packers versus the Bears. It wouldn't be wildcard weekend without a huge comeback win. And that's what the Bears have been doing all season. Going into the half, the Packers were up 21-3 and had full control over the game. The Bears really couldn't do a whole lot on offense. They were constantly making mistakes, failing on fourth down, and the Packers just sat there and had a huge lead. And then it fell apart, specifically in the fourth quarter. The Bears really couldn't do anything in the red zone for most of the game. They were wholly ineffective. They went for 2 for 5 in the entire game, and for a while there, they could not get anything going in the red zone. And then they finally broke through and just kept pouring on points. Meanwhile, the Packers couldn't do a whole lot. They couldn't get the run game going. Jordan Love played a pretty good game, but in the second half, drops were a factor. They kept going 3 and out. They missed a crucial field goal. That field goal could have come into a factor in their end of the game drive, which ended in a fumble, and the clock bled out because of it. They got very deep into Chicago territory on that last drive. And if they just needed a field goal, they easily win this game. But because of that missed field goal, they lost the game. I mean, who knows? They may have just missed that field goal as well, because McManus already had 2 missed field goals in this game. That's 6 points off the board. And that 6 points would have been crucial. So, again, Packers special teams unit did not help them in this game. And in the final half, they had constant problems on offense. Meanwhile, the Bears were able just to rattle score after score after score. Even after they got picked off in the third quarter and it looks like, oh, this game's going to be running away. The Packers did nothing with it. So, for the Packers' performance, I'm putting them in F tier. You can't blow a 21-3 lead in the playoffs, especially against a division rival. And they had plenty of opportunities to even stem the tide here. But their defense fell apart because injuries. And their offense, I wouldn't say was ineffective, but definitely was not playing like they were in the first half. And McManus, he's going to be looking for a job next year. Meanwhile, the Bears, don't put yourself in that position, but I'll put them in A tier for having an impressive comeback. I don't have much expectations for this Bears team going forward. Winning this game is a huge bonus, especially with a first-year head coach. We'll see how far they can go. Next up, we have the Bills and Jaguars. I was at this game. That ending wasn't very fun for me. But overall, the game was pretty good. Both of these teams were pretty equally matched. I mean, in terms of their rosters, the Jags definitely had the better team. However, playoff inexperience was clearly a factor for them, especially in the first half. The offense was just not clicking in the first half. They finally got something going in the second quarter, and then right before halftime, Cam Little misses a field goal. It was a 55-yard kick, so should have been a chip shot for him, but he just barely missed it. Meanwhile, the Bills clearly were the more experienced team. They just played solidly throughout the entire game. They got a game-winning drive. They scored. That whole end-of-game situation was an interesting one. Because of how close it was, the Jaguars needed time for one more drive to answer. They basically got their wish because it was 4th and 1 in the red zone, basically very close to the goal line. I'm pretty sure the plan was try to stop them. If you don't stop them, let them score. And that's kind of why on a QB sneak, instead of going for 1 yard, Josh Allen went for 6 and nearly scored a touchdown. He scored a touchdown on the next play, but it ended up costing the Jaguars a timeout. But the Jaguars still had a minute left to go down the field. And then tipped ball, intercepted immediately. That was a really sad way for the Jaguars to lose this game, and it sucked the life out of this stadium. The Jaguars did not play all that great in the first half, but they did play a pretty solid second half. Now, the issue I had in this game was the Bills' defense is bad against the run and good against the pass. Guess what they did all game? Pass the ball. Rather than running the ball, which was actually really effective, they were passing the ball for some reason. I guarantee if they ran the ball, they would have had better success in the first half. But they still had a chance at the end and didn't come up with it. And for the playoff inexperience, I'm actually going to put them in D tier despite of how close this game was. That ending was just sad. It hit Jacoby Myers in the hands, was broken up, and immediately went to a defender's hands. So, yeah, that's a tough way for the Jags to end their season. Meanwhile, the Bills, I'll go ahead and put them in A tier because this was a very solid performance for them. And this has to be Josh Allen's year at this point. He is by far the best quarterback remaining in the AFC. And if the Bills are able to beat the Jags, they can beat anyone in the AFC. Next up, we have the 49ers versus Eagles. Now, this was a hell of a sloppy game by both teams. The 49ers and Eagles went off to pretty good starts. Both scored touchdowns on their opening drive. Then the Eagles missed the PAT, and then the rest of the game was just absolute chaos. The 49ers couldn't get much going after their initial touchdown drive. The Eagles were driving plenty, but this Eagles offense was not very good. And I was very justified in not trusting this Eagles team in the slightest, because though their defense is very good and was very good in this game, the Eagles offense against a bad 49ers defense couldn't do anything all game. They were trying to dink and dunk all game, and the 49ers did a pretty good job of stopping that for the most part. This Eagles offense did way too much punting for the amount of talent they have. And this is a problem going into next year. With the reports that Jalen Hurts might not be able to run a more complex offense, that makes me worry about the ceiling of this team, because this team has plenty of talent on offense. They have a great running back, a good offensive line, 2 great receivers. some very good tight ends. If Jalen Hurts is holding this offense back, I would be very concerned. Meanwhile, the 49ers, I don't have many expectations for them going forward, but it's clear this is what happens when you have a strong offense. Despite making a ton of mistakes on the day, you're able to just get enough points against the Eagles. Honestly, if they just scored more than 20, they would have won. And look what they did. They scored more than 20, and the Eagles scored less than 20. Well, I mean, definitely the Eagles could have scored 20 if they didn't miss their first PAT of the game. So the Eagles offense, I'm putting in bottom of D tier, because though this was close and their defense played very well, this offense is hot trash. Meanwhile, the 49ers, I'll put in B tier, because the offense did enough, though they were making a lot of mistakes, especially the 2 picks. But hey, you did enough to win the game. Next up, we have the Chargers versus the Patriots. This was a very sloppy game. Patriots, first time making the playoffs in a few years, clearly shows. Despite Mike Vrabel's playoff experience, yeah, this team did not look super ready, and you get a little bit of justification for criticizing this Patriots team for having a very soft schedule, because this is the first good opponent they faced since the Bills, and their offense struggled a lot. I mean, the Chargers defense is a pretty good defense, and it showed. Drake May did not look comfortable in the pocket. The running game was literally non-existent, and their leading receiver was their running back in Ramondre Stevenson. Meanwhile, the Chargers, yeah, Justin Herbert's going to have to wait another year to get his first playoff win, because he did not have an offensive line. It was bad. He was getting hit literally the entire game. There was not a whole lot this Chargers offense could have done. And this is not an amazing pass rush in the Patriots. This is probably one of the weaker pass rushes, and they were destroying that offensive line. And Justin Herbert was feeling it all game. Yeah, the Chargers, there was not much hope for them despite how close this game was. Yeah, they didn't play all that great. I'm going to put them in D tier right here. Meanwhile, the Patriots, they definitely played very sloppy, and I am very concerned about them going up against a stronger defense in the Texans. Yeah, that game worries me. I don't know if the Patriots are able to get out of that game, because the Texans offense, despite not being very good, that defense can just win them a game. So I'm going to put the Patriots in C tier behind the Rams. Yeah, that game against the Texans worries me. I might pick the Texans there. Speaking of the Texans, now we got the Texans versus Steelers for the final wildcard game. Yeah, this was a rough game. This was as sloppy as I thought it could have been. The Texans offense is bad. Yes, the score says 30-6. By the way, 2 of their scores were defensive touchdowns. This Texans offense scored 17 points. And to cap it off, the reason why it isn't 31 was because on their final pick 6, Fairbairn missed the PAT. So just the absolute comedy that this Texans team is. Yeah, a very good defense, and it kept them in the game the entire time, and in fact, won them the game. Meanwhile, the Steelers' offense was entirely ineffective. Let me read you out their drives in order. First drive, punt, field goal, punt, punt, field goal, punt, punt, fumble, punt, interception, end of game. Aaron Rodgers did not have a good time here. And despite getting DK Metcalf, yeah, it wasn't enough. Against this Texans secondary, yeah. Forget the offense. The Texans defense is just going to score them the points. So the Texans, I'm going to put in C tier for their defensive performance alone. Their offense was garbage the entire game. It was trash. They scored their first touchdown in the second quarter and didn't score another offensive touchdown until 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. But they played the Patriots, who were not good against a good defense, so they might do this exact thing again. Meanwhile, the Steelers, I'll put in dumpster fire because, yeah, this offense was terrible and the defense played fine for like 3 quarters, but the offense needs to do something, and that was not a good final showing for Aaron Rodgers if he retires this offseason. That is my tier list for this week. What do you guys think of it? And for the first time all season, I don't have a team in S tier. But if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and sub. It's greatly appreciated and lets me know you guys enjoy these videos. Anyways, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.